Okay, we're live.
We're live. This is episode 49 of the Push Shout podcast. My name's Skip.
And I'm Mike, and Skiffy has no place or no taste in video games. Intro.
Hey, we haven't
It's intro. It says an intro.
All right.
Yeah, this is the most important part of the podcast by
Okay.
far. It's the reason people watch every week. All our fans.
Indeed.
This channel is actually
ever since
growing.
we
We're
got
getting
high
close
budget.
to 100 now, so that's good.
Yeah, we're going viral.
Yes. So I am the viral boy for Telecom Powder. This is Viral Skip. We got a podcast for you.
This is viral Push Shout.
We are going viral this week.
permeating the internet. All right. Undertale. Let's talk about it.
Okay, so I rediscovered rather a little game called Undertale. I played a demo of it a while ago.
I feel like I'm the only one who didn't play the demo of it. I'd never even heard of it.
Yeah, it was. Well, I forgot that I'd even played it. I didn't match the name when I heard it. It was like a cool demo. It's just the very first part of the game in the ruins. And I remember thinking that this was funny and there were some clever moments, but I don't know how he's going to be able to make that into a whole game.
Yeah.
That gimmick might wear thin. But I played Undertale, and I gotta say, I am absolutely in love with this game.
I know you
head
are.
over heels. This is one of my favorite games of all time. It's the only game that's ever closely reminded me of Cave Story, and it's masterful. It's a masterpiece. It's one of my favorite games, and I will defend it to the grave, you apostate.
Well, you don't have to defend it too much because I don't dislike this game. I was frustrated with a few parts. There's a few things I don't like about it. As a whole, I think it's a pretty fucking great game.
Let's clarify, and we got to be careful to avoid spoilers because even if you're not a fan of
Yeah.
it, then you gotta acknowledge that so much of the value comes from the surprises and the way that it
I guess I didn't feel like everyone was talking about not spoiling it, and I didn't feel like there was a big enough twist that it mattered.
Well,
but
what
I guess
did
it
you
depends
do?
on what playthrough you do and everything. I did a completely non-lethal playthrough.
Completely non-lethal. So you played through it and then you went back and got a better. Is that what you did?
Yeah. There's like
Okay.
two endings, kind of. It's like Metal Gear Solid 5. Yeah, and I mean, I loved the story. I thought it was fantastic, and I don't know. I don't think the twists were like if that game had been spoiled for me, I don't think it would have ruined it very much. Really, I think it
would have ruined it for me. I don't
Really?
know. It's been a long time since I've played a game that's had me smiling this much, just the entire time I'm playing. The characters are fucking great. They're charming, and it's a sincere game with a lot of heart
yeah.
and the great jokes, and the gameplay is it works with the jokes. Like there's a monster called the Sundare Plane.
And it
And-
doesn't just work with the jokes; it works with the story and the theme and everything.
Yeah,
that's
all
that's
of
my
it works
biggest.
together.
That's one of the things I legitimately do love about the game is that it's a cohesive experience in every way. Like it is what a video game. It's like the ideal video game in that the gameplay completely backs up the story in a way that not very many games fully do. Like a lot of games try, but like that and Papers, Please are the first two things that are coming to my mind when I think of that. And that I love that. My problem is that I don't enjoy bullet hell games at all, and I'm terrible at them. And also, my controller wasn't working, and I felt like the keyboard controls were bad. So,
The keyboard controls are, I think, better than the controller controls.
I'm not used to using arrow keys, and the fingers on my right hand were cramping up, and it was just a fucking disaster. I was so terrible.
Well,
I was dying all the time.
So for the longest time, my favorite game has been Cave Story, and this may have supplanted that. But there's just so many similarities between this and Cave Story, and things I love about both.
Mm-hmm.
Both games are primarily made by one guy, doing almost all the assets, the sound, the music, the programming, everything, the story. Both games have multiple endings. Some are very, very hard to get, and I really encourage you to do a genocide run because the story.
I'm definitely gonna do that.
Yeah, the story. I don't want to spoil, but it does something that games have never done.
I feel
I
like
don't want to talk about it more.
I don't want to hype it up for myself because I think part of the reason that I didn't enjoy this game fully is because everything I heard from everyone who I trust with their opinions was saying it was the most amazing thing ever.
It
And
is.
while I think it's great,
really
I don't
is.
think it's the most amazing thing ever. I think it's fine. It's just a really great game. It didn't blow me away. The ending was the last couple hours are pretty incredible, but like I for most of it I was just like, yeah, this is a cute video game and I'm enjoying it. I wasn't blown away. It's been such a great year for video games too that I feel like if this came out last year, goddamn.
I've got to put my foot down and say no.
Right.
This is worth hyping up. I just can't help but gush over this game because, I mean, it's all I've been thinking about. It's just the best. The music is incredible and it always perfectly fits the boss fight. And there's like.
It is one of those games that you think about while you're not playing it, while you're like at work. You're sitting there thinking like, God, I need to go back and do this or do that, and like, what happens if I do that?
And
it's one of those kinds of things.
Unlike a certain stinker that came out story-wise recently, this game uses fourth wall breakage, the meta narrative. It uses it as an actual meta narrative.
Yeah.
It serves a purpose in a story.
Definitely.
It all has direct impact on characters, and that's great. And I really encourage you to play Genocide Ending.
Yeah, after finally, I only finished the game today. It's taken me like 4 days to finish it because what happened is I kept reaching points where I was like, ah, fuck this, and I turned it off because I don't have a lot of patience for old style RPG games.
Really?
I've never been able to play them. It's just rough for me. Like
I grew up on those.
I feel like that's another thing that I'm really missing out on is I have zero nostalgia for that. None. Because when I tried to play those as a kid, I had no fun.
Those were like my favorite games. Like Chrono Trigger
and there's a lot of like there's so much of that game comes from those games, like it intentionally evokes those games in a way that like I understand but I don't really connect with, you know. And so that I think that is a struggle for me where every time that I have to backtrack I'm like, oh god damn it, like I don't know what it is about those kinds of games that just I can't stand going through the same room twice. You know.
Well, here's what I love about it. Every moment of it is memorable and unique. Every enemy, generic mob, has a unique personality in terms of how they're designed, but also a literal personality where you have to, some of them like to be complimented and some of them don't want to be bullied, and you remember the actual enemies. It's not like Pokemon where they're just wacky designs.
And
you remember the encounters, you remember every NPC, the slimy guy who's at the hotel diner, behind the counter, like you remember all of it.
The thing that surprised me at the end was how much it matters that those individuals NPCs are actually memorable. Like it actually takes advantage of that being like they're not just unique for the sake of keeping the experience fresh. They're unique so that you remember them and then it gets called upon later, and that's really that was a great feeling. Like the ending was by far the best part of the game for me because it was just the kinds of feelings it gave you was awesome.
The ending reminded me of Gurren Lagann.
Yep. I wouldn't have thought of that if I didn't see your tweets yesterday talking about it, but like because I hadn't seen any of that part like when you first were talking about that, so I was completely confused. I didn't really understand the Gurren Lagann connection, and then that ending is very
I
much
was like I was feeling it like obviously it's not as much of a visual feast as Gurren Lagann, but the ending really feels like I really don't want to talk about it. Cause
I don't want to spoil it either. We'll probably
and then
spoil it next week or something.
I highly recommend that you play the Genocide route.
Yeah, I will. I promise.
I'm not
also
looking
forward to playing through some of that, but
it's incredible. It like some of the gameplay in that is just amazing. You might not like it because it's bullet hell, but
the bullet hell
I really
stuff.
like it. Well, that's
I'm
the
just
thing.
bad at it.
I remember the thread that I kind of trailed off on with Cave Story. The end of Cave Story, the end game, once you do get like the good ending, when you try to go for the best ending, The final area is like bullet hell. The rest of the game isn't, but that part is, and that's the part that you basically play the most. That's like the challenge area, and it controls kind of like Undertale actually controls with the jetpack, and so gameplay wise, how it feels, how charming the whole atmosphere is. The cast of characters is so well rounded. Like all of them are their own little personalities, and they like certain things. And I wish I could talk about all of it. But
They're really likable, and the fact that they're likable is integral to the how.
yeah,
the game,
it's not just cute.
Yeah.
They're I can't talk about it.
Yeah.
I really can't go into any detail. But I will unreservedly recommend this as highly as I could recommend a game.
I would also recommend it to anyone. It's only $10, which is a steal basically, because you're getting one of the best games of the year at least, and it's a lot longer than I thought, which at first I didn't like. When I was going through the snow level towards the beginning of the game, I was thinking like I was halfway through. And I was not at all halfway through.
It's complete. This is an early access. It's a long, really, really well planned and executed game. Again, I don't want to spoil exactly how, but there's just so much detail. I'll give one example. This is one little tease. There's a boss. No, okay. No, I'm not going to. I'm going to resist. But you can see how painful this is. And that should make you want to play this game.
We'll talk about it, just not this episode, because I do think a lot of people haven't played it yet. I think a lot of people are on the fence.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to spoil it for people.
I was surprised at how low it was on the top seller list on Steam, actually, because of how much buzz I'd heard about it. But
actually, I want to check it right now. But
yeah,
last I checked,
it was on the second page when I bought it.
Last I checked, though, on Metacritic right now, Undertale
like 98.
is the highest rated PC game of all time.
yeah. Which I don't.
It doesn't have many reviews, but, so it probably won't stay there. But it deserves.
It's a very good game.
Recognition.
It does. We'll talk about it more next week. I think. I agree with you. I don't want to ruin it for anyone, and everyone should play it for sure.
Yes.
So, moving on, for now at least, what else? Have you played any other video games?
I did. I played a little bit of Witcher 2, besides the usual Project M screwing around that I do.
Right.
I played some more Witcher 2. I'm not really too interested at this point.
It's just been going on too long?
No, I got to a new... Well, it does feel kind of dragged out at this point, because... it's just been months where it was unplayable, and now I had to transfer saves, and that was a whole process. And the quest area that I'm in is pretty boring, but I'm gonna get through it because I want to play Witcher 3. I've mentioned this before, but I launched Witcher 3 for just like a couple minutes and walked out on the balcony, and that was what motivated me to go back and play Witcher 2.
Yeah, I think that probably. I wouldn't be able to resist doing that either, but that probably soured Witcher 2 a little bit, because now you're just thinking about getting into Witcher 3, and so now your attitude with Witcher 2 is just going to be, all right, I just got to finish this so I can play Witcher 3, which isn't going to make it as enjoyable
I think if I sit down with it and really get invested in the world again, then that won't be so much a problem.
Yeah.
But it's just, even the subtle differences in how Geralt moves, walking around that Yennefer apartment area, or whatever, penthouse on the hill. I don't know what it was, because I never left the room. But it's just so stiff in Witcher 2. And speaking of stiff Witcher games, did you stream Witcher 1?
Oh, God, I streamed Witcher 1. So first of all, I finished Witcher 3 finally, the main storyline at least. And it's a very good story all the way through. It had a very satisfying ending, and very obviously multiple endings. Like, I got mostly what I would call good endings. Like, there's a few things where you can tell, like, okay, it's checking this off the list, just off this off the list, and this off the list. Like, here's the state that you left the world in, and here's these specific characters, and how you changed, their outcomes. And most of it, I think the characters were were well off, but the world was not well off. I did not I did not help out Temeria very much, unfortunately. So I'm actually probably gonna play through it. I didn't think I was gonna play through it again at all because there's like a new game plus thing they added, and people were asking me if I was gonna play it, and I said definitely not because what's the point? I've already played it. But now I'm thinking maybe I'll play it again, especially after playing Witcher 1 and 2, which planning on getting through, and I think that'll kind of give me a new light on the story. But yeah, I finished Witcher 3 and then jumped into Witcher 1 against a lot of people's advice who said don't even play Witcher 1. It is a stiff game. That is a very good word for it. The combat. Here's what the combat boils down to.
A tad dated.
Yeah.
A tad.
Yeah. The combat boils down to you click on an enemy to do a sequence of swings, and then when the cursor changes color for like a second, you click again to do another sequence, and then you do that pattern until the enemy's dead. Obviously, there's more to it than that because you involve the magic and the potions and different stances or whatever, but it is very, very unresponsive. Like, it's just a very stiff game. But I don't mind that so much. Morrowind's one of my favorite games of all time, and it has some of the worst combat of all time, much worse than The Witcher 1. So I can handle it. The problem came when I finally got all the way through the first area, which apparently is the worst area of the game, and got to the boss. And the boss, like, I'm playing on normal. I didn't have any problem with anything in the first area. Get to the boss, just destroyed. There's like 8 enemies that attack you at once. It doesn't give you any time to... It auto-saves. So there is an auto-save feature, thank God. But it auto-saves into a dialogue sequence that then goes into a cutscene that then goes directly into a boss fight with no time to prepare. So no potions to drink or anything like that. You're just instantly fighting. And when you die, you have to go back through the dialogue sequence and everything and then to the boss fight. It's really, really annoying, really terrible. I don't even... like. It seems literally impossible to beat the boss. I have an unlisted video on my YouTube channel about it because it's just like I'm doing my best, obviously. I'm doing everything I can, and the boss has this... It's not even an attack that they use, so like you can't like stun him and stop him from using the attack. It just automatically uses this attack that... Or not attack, it's like a defensive thing that affects you, and it stuns you for like several seconds. It's called Pain. And basically Geralt just goes for like 6 seconds while they just bite you and kill you. And it is the worst thing ever. I hate it. I want to get through that one boss just to play the rest of the game. I'm thinking of just blatantly cheating to do it because it doesn't seem worth it to do it the proper way. Like, it's just so bad. So that's not fun. It's a weird game. I was actually enjoying it up to that point. Even though it has a lot of problems, and none of its individual elements are as good as the sequels. So it's rough, but I'm looking forward to Witcher 2. Yeah, that sucked. God, I can't believe literally I looked it up online, and there were a bunch of people who have the same exact problem. I don't know how they left that in the game the way it was. Like, such a ridiculous ramp up in difficulty that's completely without warning.
Well, to shift gears a little bit, have you played Soma?
No, I've seen some gameplay.
I need to play Soma.
I've seen probably like the first hour and a half, something like that.
Because Amnesia: The Dark Descent, that was a good game, even though everybody imitated it for a long, long time. That game was good, and so I'm really interested to see. Underwater settings are just scary because you can't escape. There's nowhere to go, and I really want to see what they were able to do with that.
I gotta say, I was kind of looking forward to that game a little bit. Like, I had reservations, but I was kind of looking forward to it, and I hadn't played Amnesia or anything. People seemed pretty excited about it, and then I watched the first hour and a half or so, and just... I would recommend watching a little bit of it before you actually play it, because I just don't... It doesn't look that appealing to me. The voice acting is kind of just bad.
Oh,
Almost
really?
endearingly bad though. Like it's almost bad enough to be good. Because like the main character, he's just okay. So this is the comparison I made. You know the Burger Time video from Mecha
Yeah.
Gamezilla? The American voice in that,
How does
where
that
he's
go?
like, oh god, now I'm trying to think of it's like oh, you want me to play this video game? Like everything is very like it's obviously a British person trying to make an American accent and enunciating each syllable very very clearly, and for
Oh,
some reason the main character of Soma talks like that, and it's really really off-putting. It's also weird just the main character talking as much as he does is weird because you're in like a first person perspective, and also the
that sounds kind of
plot.
annoying.
The plot, I'm pretty sure I can predict exactly what the plot is, like just from the first hour, 100%. Like I'm very very confident that I know exactly what the twist is. It seems super obvious, and maybe that's intentional, but I don't have that much faith in the storytelling of this game for that to be intentional. So I don't know.
Okay. I don't.
Well,
I don't
check it
know
out.
very much. All I know about it is that it's underwater and scary.
The thing that
And
that
so I wanna
appealed to
keep
me
it
about
that
it is that it's supposed to be ostensibly it is exploring sci-fi concepts of like the difference between man and machine and you know what makes a man, that kind of thing. But I I don't think I don't know if it does a very good job of that. It I don't know.
Well,
We'll see.
I guess we'll see.
I hope you play it so that I can hear your account of it because I'm not gonna buy it. No way. Not from what I've seen. So you spend your money. All right. Let's see. There was something I forgot to mention. No, there wasn't. Do you want to talk about news now?
Yeah, sure.
There's some news.
There is.
Most of it is just goofy shit. So I'll start out with the goofiest. Just I really enjoyed this. Have you heard of Direct to Drive, or do you remember Direct to Drive?
I've heard about this. Yep.
They
I won't steal your thunder. Go for it.
they had I don't know, maybe it's still going on. They have a sale going on this week, I think, called I think it was just called like the trigger warning sale or some stupid shit like that, and it said like celebrating our most diverse, unique, and progressive games or something like that, and game journalists were freaking out about it, about how offensive it was and everything, and giving it all sorts of advertising. Nobody had thought of Direct to Drive in probably years, and now everyone's talking about it, which is exactly what they wanted. And I thought it was really funny. But you should look up Direct to Drive's
Yeah, it's
tweets
like
because
instant
it's fucking
dynamite.
hilarious.
All you have to do to get coverage is piss off games journalists.
Yep.
And they'll write
Hatred
about
Hatred
you.
proved it as a concept, and Direct to Drive perfected it. Because nobody's actually offended. Like, I say nobody. Nobody who matters is offended by this stupid little advertisement that's called...
No sizable consumer base
yeah,
is offended.
yeah. And then the people who are affected, or who act like they're affected at least, signal boost it, which is exactly what they want.
Signal boost. Signal boost.
So I thought that was funny. I just thought that was worth mentioning. Tony Hawk 5 came out this week.
Looks like shit.
It is shit, it turns out. What a surprise.
Does it play like shit, or does it just look like shit?
All of the above, apparently.
Great.
'Cause, yeah, it looks really bad. We've known it looks really bad for a long time. I thought maybe not so much that it looked bad intentionally, but that, they didn't care about graphics and they were focusing entirely on gameplay. I thought maybe, there's still hope. Apparently not. It looks really bad. It looks completely unfinished. It looks like it was just pushed out the door in an instant. There's not even very many maps, and the maps that there are, they're just like kind of empty, and you can do a list of objectives that are just like all really repetitive, stupid shit. It looks really bad. Also, they've ruined a core part of like Tony Hawk has a feel to it. Have you ever like gotten into the Tony Hawk games?
Oh yeah. I played a lot of them as a kid.
So there's like a feel. Like you could put that game down for 10 years and come back to it, and it's like riding a bike. Like how things work. You get into it and you understand the rhythms of it.
Yeah, I know how how the snapping to the rail kind of
Yeah,
feels.
well, the snapping to the rail. It's funny you mentioned that because now, so you're in the air and you hold down Y or triangle or whatever, and you're gonna grind on the rail that's nearest to you. when you come down to it. That's what you think in your head. That's what you've known for like what 2 decades now. Well, now they've changed that so that when you press triangle or Y, you slam onto the ground like really quickly. Like it's, I guess
Yeah,
you're
I saw
supposed to
that.
wait until you're over the rail and then press it so that you like slam down onto the rail. And it looks like the rhythm just doesn't feel good at all. It looks terrible. I don't know why they would do that because there was nothing wrong with the old way of doing things. Maybe I'm just grumpy and old, but it's nobody likes that game. But it turns out the reason, or what is likely the reason that it's this way, is that the Tony Hawk contract with Activision was due to expire in 2015, perhaps like near this date. So they clearly just pushed out the game in the state that it was in without any care to quality.
Lots of that going around.
Yeah, and then they put the 5 on the end of the name, which would imply that like this is it. This is the sequel to the Tony Hawk series that people have been waiting for, not just some spin-off. But also, it's $60, and it looks like a $15 game.
It looked like an iPad game.
Yeah,
Something that a
it could probably,
Snapdragon processor would run.
and yet there are frame rate issues with it,
Wonderful.
even with how bad it looks.
That's great.
But thanks a lot, Activision.
That's always good to hear.
Yeah. Have you heard of Beginner's Guide? This Davey Redin, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Redin.
I have not.
Well, you've heard of Stanley Parable.
Yeah.
The guy who made Stanley Parable, named David Redin, whatever, he's going to come out with a game. I think it might have come out today, actually, or it's coming out very soon, called Beginner's Guide. And I'm not sure if it's comedic. It doesn't seem like it's comedic. It seems like it's I don't even know what you would call it. The concept, I think, I've seen the trailer, and the concept seems to be you're exploring a person or maybe multiple people's kind of like throwaway experimental source levels or mods or
what
whatever.
are you talking about? I got zero information from those words that you just said.
So, trying to explain it is really hard. Turns out. So, like, I think what he's done is he's built a lot of what at least appear to be source levels, like made in Hammer.
Okay, Source Engine. All right.
Yeah, and the idea is you're exploring these experimental games or levels or whatever, and the David Redin is narrating it and trying to come up with conclusions about the person who made them based on how they're made or something like that. I don't know how deep it goes into like game theory and stuff, but it sounds really interesting, or at least really unique. I've got to check it out just because it looks like something that's obviously never been done before. It looks completely bizarre.
Yeah, Stanley Parable was neat. So
I like Stanley Parable a lot. Undertale reminded me of Stanley Parable a lot because the fourth wall breaking and the kind of subverting expectations and stuff. It's very Stanley Parable.
I don't want to talk too much more about Undertale, but in my opinion,
we can talk as much as you want about it.
In my opinion, Undertale handles the fourth wall breakage much better than Stanley Parable. I feel like it uses the fourth wall breakage to a dramatic effect, and for the Stanley Parable, it just all feels silly and
Undertale does a better job of what it's trying to accomplish than Stanley Parable. I agree. I think, and yeah, the fourth wall. It kind of breaks the fourth wall in a different way. Stanley Parable's on the nose, on purpose.
Yeah.
And Undertale is a little more subtle about it. But yeah, definitely, I agree. Stanley Parable's great. I love Stanley Parable, but it's no Undertale. So anyway, that looks really
people were talking this up. People were hyping me up on Twitter. They're like, Skippy's been talking shit, man. He hates Undertale.
Yeah. Well, and I
really
never hated
that
it.
way.
I certainly never hated it. But I made a couple tweets when I was first playing it where I was just kind of like, I don't know, this game seems all right, and I don't really see what's so great about it.
Good old snarky Skip.
Yeah, I was being real snarky. But first of all, I'd only played the first 3 areas, I think, And in my opinion, the best area was the one that I hadn't quite got to yet, which is the hot zone, or whatever. I think it's
Really,
what's
you
called,
like
the
that
hot
one
zone.
the most?
I loved it.
That's
just the story.
that's fast the story, but
Well,
I
yeah,
mean the
I mean,
environment.
the zone itself, I don't really care. The environments. I've never been like the pixel art stuff. Just doesn't do that much for me. I just don't care. It's just something that I'm walking through. You know. I don't know. I wasn't blown away by any of the environments.
It's funny. Well, sorry, I wasn't really talking about the environments either, but Hot Zone was probably my least favorite area.
Why?
For this, not because I didn't like it. I just didn't like it as much as I liked the other areas.
Do you think just like the humor wasn't as good, or
The humor was still very funny. I love I forgot his name. which was the whole-
Metaton?
No, not Metaton. I'm talking about one of the minor characters, the little flame guy. He's Heats
Yeah.
Flamesman.
He's Flames.
He says,
I forgot his name. You're not supposed
"Hey,
to forget his name.
I remembered it.
Okay.
I remembered it." So he says, "Hey, my name's Heats Flamesman. Remember the name." And you talk to him next time. Do you remember my name? Yes or no? And then he's just shocked, and
Just
he's
the
frozen
face.
that way for all time.
Yeah, you go back like 2 hours later and he's still. Yeah, that was pretty good.
I guess here's one of the things that I'll say, because this has been known since the demo came out in 2013. Undertale, it's like a traditional RPG in like the basic framing of it, but there's a lot of fourth wall breaking meta things going on. And one of the things that it does is remembers what you do in previous saves. So you can, this was in the demo. You can kill a certain character, and then you can go back and save them.
I never
and
did
then,
that, but I
and
heard
then the
about
game, and then the game will tell you, I know what you did.
it.
You killed her, and then you regretted it, so you thought you could reset it. But I know what you did. It's great.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm sad that I didn't discover that, but like I just didn't feel like experimenting. But yeah, Hot Zone. The thing I liked about the Hot Zone was it was the introduction of Metaton
Metaton
or
is
whatever.
fantastic,
and he is my favorite, by far my favorite thing about the game. I just,
really,
every time he showed up, I got excited. I loved it. It was
Metaton was pretty good.
I loved it.
Sans is my favorite.
I liked Sans, but again, Sans to me represents just like the kind of
Keep
I'm not
playing,
gonna call it.
dude.
I'm
Keep
not
playing.
gonna call it meaningless.
Keep
but
playing.
Just,
Keep
okay.
playing.
Okay, but yeah, Metaton. Every time he showed up, I was like actually like. Really
I love
excited.
his flamboyant presence.
The boss fight.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Did you? Okay, this is very minor. So just cover yours for about 30 seconds if you really, really care. But this is minor. When he asks you to write an essay, did you know if you say "fuck you," then you'll lose ratings, and then he'll say this is a family-friendly show?
I'm not surprised. I think if you say like you're handsome or something, I think I read that like increases the ratings. But I think I wrote like I don't know. I wrote something, but I didn't get any kind of response from it. Yes, Metaton is great. Let's not spoil any more things because I want to keep talking about those individual moments and I can't. Oh my god, the music! I'll just say this: the music during not only the Metaton sequences, but pretty much all the boss. The whole game's music is something that I don't think a lot of people are talking about. But
no,
it's
I think
awesome.
They are because Toby Fox has been like the audio director of Homestuck, which is a popular webcomic by
which I couldn't care less
terrible
about.
fans. But he makes a lot of music for it, and he's been doing it for a long time. And his main occupation for years has been as a musician first, which is interesting.
I did not know that.
It's interesting because Pixel, Daisuke Amaya, who made Cave Story, he was the same way. He was more programming oriented, but he was mostly trying to make a program that could synthesize music.
Right.
And then he built a game kind of around that. So yeah, musicians are creative people, I guess.
Yeah, the music is fantastic. I think one of my favorites was the spider boss fight music.
Oh yeah, Moffat.
Was that his name? Her name?
Yeah. All of these characters are just it's so well rounded. That's all I can say about it.
Yep.
Every character feels distinct from every other character, and they're all interesting. And you know what? Here's what I think people aren't talking about. If the so-called social justice crowd is looking for like a champion of progressive sexual identity values, like this game has a blatant disregard for gender and heteronormative relationships, but nobody talks about it because it's just too good and it's too hard and it requires skill. Exactly.
The reason people aren't
it's
talking
totally
about it is because
transparent.
it doesn't pander to that crowd.
Exactly. It's great. It's great.
Yeah. Yep. Every part of that game is very lovable. No doubt about it.
It's very sincere. It actually made me go back. Okay, this is something I can talk about. I did play another game. I started one. It made me go back and play Earthbound. I never played Earthbound before. And I know that it's common knowledge that this game is inspired a lot by Earthbound. Much like Homestuck was inspired a lot by Earthbound. And I'm playing it, and a lot of it is carried over. Like when you fight regular mobs in that game, like a stray dog is one of the enemies. And when you beat it, it just says, it became tame. And it's all better now, and it's all cute. And then the way you save is you call up your dad on the phone, and then he'll tell you a little story about growing up or taking responsibility. It's good. It's very, very charming.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I know. If I went to try to play Earthbound, I know I wouldn't be able to. I just don't have enough patience with that kind of old game. But anyway, God. Okay, wait. One last thing. One last spoiler that I want to mention. Did you notice? This is so minor, so don't even worry about it. But I feel like I'm the only one who noticed it, or I want to be the only one. I don't know. There's a part in the hot zone where what's her name? The scientist who's
Alphys.
Autistic is like making status updates about anime, and if there's a save zone, and the save zone will say like what the zone is after you save.
Yeah.
But it's really easy to miss, and that zone that she's doing that in is called the bad opinions zone. I thought it was really funny because it was like so small, like just such a little like something I almost missed, and then I saw it, and that's what I like. It's like the stuff that like you could so easily miss or skip over, but it gives you a lot of gratification when you actually like. There's the plant. No more spoilers. No more spoilers.
Yeah, this game is it's special. It's a very special game. You might not like it as much as I do.
I just don't like the gameplay.
I
just don't like the gameplay.
At the moment, I haven't played The Witcher 3, but this is my game of the year so far.
I don't think that this will beat out Witcher 3, because if your enthusiasm for this game, there's no way Witcher 3 will be able to. I just don't think that's possible. And Witcher 3 doesn't. I don't know. Whatever. It's impossible to compare this to Witcher 3.
Yeah, it's apples and oranges.
It's meaningless to say that this is better than The Witcher 3 or something like that.
Right.
It's completely meaningless.
I think the Metal Gear Solid 5 comparison, though, is one that can be made.
At least from a story perspective.
Exactly. This is how you do a meta-narrative in a game. I mean, you can also say the same thing about Metal Gear Solid 2, but this came out this year.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Enough about Undertale. We have to mention this because this has just been like the only thing I've seen in the last week. Everyone's talking about it. It's the buzz on the internet right now. Is that someone I've never heard of named Phil Owen wrote a book
Before
about
we
video
get to
games.
this is more SJW gamer journalism drama.
Turn this off right now if you don't want to hear about.
No. That's what. I was glad to be late to the party on this. I eventually wound up reading up and catching up, but when I found out about it, I realized I was already at least a couple days out of the loop, and I felt good. It's like I'm free. This stuff has to come to me now.
Yeah,
that's great.
There's still a couple people that I follow on Twitter that are pretty on top of this stuff, and there's even people there's a significant amount of people who will just message me out of nowhere with a link to something like this, and I'm like, don't do this to me. Don't message me your depressing video game breaking news things. But anyway, I think it's worth talking about because
go ahead with it.
It is a lot of people are talking about it, and I actually think I actually think there's something worth discussing here that has nothing to do with social justice or any of that bullshit. But anyway, this guy wrote a book. The book looks terrible. We won't talk about. There's nothing to talk about.
It's barely a book.
It looks bad. It looks like a bad book.
It's a collection of 9 blog posts called chapters.
He spends like a third of the book talking about himself. It looks really bad. Also, there was a Polygon, not article. There was a Polygon feature that took an excerpt of the book, and the Polygon feature said that it was written by Polygon staff, and all the Gamergaters were freaking out because apparently that's a breach of ethics, but it's not, because it says this is an excerpt from Phil Owen's book. They don't need to say that the feature on the website is by Phil Owen. Anyway, I thought that was really stupid. But here's the interesting thing that I think is worth talking about. One of the things that a lot of people have been focusing on in this guy's set of arguments is kind of, this is a lot of what we've talked about already today, but the idea of gameplay either supporting or conflicting with the artistic direction of the game.
We've talked, and I specifically have talked about this a lot in different videos.
I think it's a really interesting topic because I think it's something that video games haven't really discovered a lot yet. Like, most video games that come out, I think, kind of treat story and gameplay separately. Like, take Metal Gear Solid, for instance. I don't think there's a whole lot of, synthesis. Merging of those two things.
That's true. But the most irritating thing about this guy's book to me, and to Adrian Schmeilars, who did me the honor of.
Is that really how you pronounce his last name?
No, I'm assuming it's Schmeilars or Schmeilars.
I have no idea.
Either
no
way,
idea. It's Polish,
kind of
or
Polish
something.
name.
Yeah.
But he was so kind as to read it for me and quote some lengthy passages. So
he had a very good article.
Good bits. He's a great writer.
Yeah.
Just fiction and in general.
He's level-headed. Like he talks about these really like hot topic issues, but he does a very level approach.
And then even when he wants to get like kind of irritated, he can call somebody a jerk off, but he builds to it and earns it. It's really interesting to read. But anyway, he treats this, what I'd say is about 2 or 3 years behind the dialogue.
Yeah.
I mean, he acts like he's presenting a new argument. He says, this is something that people haven't addressed, and now I'm going to do it because nobody else could.
It is such a self-centered.
This is 2 or 3 years ago. This was a mainstream.
He even uses The Last of Us as one of his main examples of like a pinnacle,
which is 2013,
or like leading edge. Yeah. And so it's like The Last of Us. Like, I don't think of that today as the leading edge of any kind of like any part of video games. A lot of games since then have done all of the things that Last of Us have tried to do better. So that I maybe it was written in 2013. I don't know, but
that's when a lot of the. I noticed that there's not so much gameplay as art discussion anymore. The conversation's essentially over. People agree with us for the most part now. So.
Yeah, but like I don't think it's as simple as agreement and disagreement. I think
I know I know that there's nuanced opinions, but most people I talk to now, they'll say gameplay can be used in harmony with other qualities of a game to create a more complete artistic package, and it doesn't always have to. Sometimes it can be just fun. That's a pretty common position lately, and it's not so controversial to suggest that gameplay is valuable in itself, or that
the fact that it was ever controversial is kind of terrifying. But anyway, I did think that people. The problem, like I think the part of the reason that people were freaking out about this guy's argument is that he presents it so badly that I don't think people don't understand his argument, or the argument itself just doesn't have enough substance to stand on its own anyway. But people project their own
conflicting
opinion onto it.
It's a high-profile blip
Yeah.
on this topic's radar, and so people are able to attach a lot of baggage to it.
But I do wish that I agree that I think that the gameplay versus art, if you want to say that, is an outdated kind of outlook. But I do think that from what I see, I don't see a lot of people talking about how those two things work together enough. I think a lot of games like Undertale come out and everyone praises them, but I don't see a lot of in-depth discussion of here's what's so amazing about what it's doing, and it's still so rare too to see games that do it.
And we'll probably talk about it on this show, but on my Cheating on You podcast, Between the Ass Cheeks, we're going to be having a discussion of Undertale. Maybe you could join us.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Experienced podcaster to whip the boys in shape.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think that I trolled all of my Twitter followers. I made a kind of an inflammatory tweet that said that I agreed with that guy's article, when there's really not much there to agree with. But I do think that there was a point there that he was making that people weren't really paying attention to, which is that games like The Last of Us, they put in, and Adrian addresses this, they put in a lot of arbitrary gameplay decisions that distract you from the immersion and distract you from the storytelling, and they don't serve any purpose other than to say this is a video game, and I don't like that. I
don't know about that. That's where I'll agree more with Adrian Chmylars, because I that's the thing. He makes a good point about certain people having been raised on video games, and I'm not saying you weren't. But
there's certain types of video games that I definitely was not raised on.
There's certain things are just transparent to some people. You could not show The Last of Us to an 80-year-old and just have them get the impact of everything. Some things would be distracting. Having a button prompt on the screen, that might just break everything. So
when I play Last of Us,
I understand why the shivs would be a problem to some people. The thing is, I feel that you really have to try to break your own immersion to get to that point where you're noticing things like that. That it's very, very possible for that to be totally clear and transparent. But
I played The Last of Us less than a year ago, I think, and I didn't finish it, but I played probably the first 10 hours or so.
I finished it probably 2 years ago, just for context. But
I was enjoying it, but I think I was hit with, I wouldn't describe it, like the problems that Phil Owen or whatever has with The Last of Us aren't the ones, like I don't care about the shivs running out or things like that. But ladders. I do think that the gameplay is presented in a very almost puzzle-like nature, where you've got
that stuff is very
there's
arbitrary.
One segment in particular where you're going through a skyscraper that's like tilted over or whatever, and there's a bunch of clickers, and they have very specific patrol routes, and you have at that time I had a very specifically limited amount of weapons and stuff to use, and I had to kind of repeat it over and over to figure out the exact path that I needed to take through to get through it. And it totally took me out of the survival. It didn't feel right at all. Yeah. And I think part of the problem was that I played it after so many games focused on survival as its core mechanic and even core theme, and did it in a way that is emergent, to use a buzzword. Like, it feels natural, and it feels like you're actually improvising, while The Last of Us feels like they're giving you this tool and this tool and this tool, now solve this puzzle with those tools, and it doesn't carry that theme with it of survival, I don't think. And that was part of my problem with I didn't enjoy playing The Last of Us almost primarily because of that reason, and because I wanted the story to continue, but the story almost, I wouldn't say conflicted with the gameplay, but I felt like I was just having to get through the gameplay to get to the story.
They weren't working together tightly by any means. Yeah, which is, to bring up Undertale again, all the more reason to appreciate games like that. And there's all kinds of games that do that well, that reinforce their stories with their gameplay. But Undertale is the specific recent example of just that being done wonderfully.
I have a very short fuse. I've got very little patience in video games in general, and so in Undertale, a lot of the times when I would get really frustrated at like a boss or something like that, once I would finish the boss, same for like Dark Souls and stuff, I'd get really frustrated. I'd hate the game for it. I'd finish it, and I'd realize that frustration is part of what makes the whole experience as a whole better. And I don't think that that's true 100% of the time, even in Undertale or Dark Souls, which are two games that do it really well and that I love. But because there's a balance there that's really hard to find because every player is different. Obviously, like I'm bad at bullet hell, so it's harder for me to get through a lot of these bosses than probably most people.
You'll have a fun time with your genocide run.
Yeah, but I Undertale did it well, and I was frustrated as I was playing through a lot of parts, and then I would get through it and say like, you know what, that was totally worth the frustration, and that's part of the whole determination theme of that game is supported by you being frustrated with.
I really wish you would finish this game because the true ending of the themes of the game, the resolution of everything comes through genocide. We'll
get to it. I'll get through it, and we'll talk about maybe next week, and if not next week, the next.
Yes.
So it'll definitely happen. But yeah, God, what a good year for video games.
It really was.
I can't get over how awesome.
And we got Fallout 4 coming out. I doubt it's going to be.
I might buy Fallout 4 full price.
I'll buy Fallout 4.
I don't know. Buy it. I'm definitely going to buy it. Probably the main reason I'm going to buy it is just because I feel like I need to experience it because everyone else is going to be playing it.
I had fun playing Fallout 3. It wasn't as good as Fallout New Vegas. It was the worst Fallout game, really.
I had the same experience with Fallout 3 that I had with all the other Bethesda games after Morrowind, which is this is awesome, this is awesome, this is awesome. Wait a minute, I'm starting to see through this game.
Yeah.
And then by the time I get through the main storyline, I'm just like, this is fucking stupid, and I'm tired of it. Fallout 4 does look like it does some things significantly differently that hopefully it will. I really do want it to be very good.
It seems like it'll be worth $60.
It's a Bethesda game. It'll be worth the money just except for Skyrim, I only got like 9 hours out of, and then I quit. But I feel like I could still go back and play more of the Skyrim and probably Skyrim enjoy it. But like,
you only played 9 hours of Skyrim.
I just didn't enjoy it. I just was not having any fun.
That's fair, but
I got through a lot. Like I got through a lot of the main storyline. I kind of rushed through it, I think, a little bit unintentionally, and I got
boring.
I saw a lot of the world, and the main storyline's really boring, and the world is really boring, and I was really disappointed because I thought both of those things were going to be great. I don't know. I was just so disappointed in Skyrim that I think I just couldn't play anymore because I was sad. Because I was actually I don't know why, but I was super excited about Skyrim. Like I was ready to jump into that game.
Me too. I was very, very excited. I was 4 years younger than you, so I was totally bought into the hype. I
was bought into the hype. I had it pre-ordered. I got it out of the mailbox, and I was like, oh hell yeah! And it was like I was a child again. And after a couple of even in the first hour of playing it, I was going, oh wait, I know what this game is, and we'll see how Fallout 4 is. However Fallout 4 turns out, I think it'll make a really good base.
It looks better. It looks better than Fallout 3. So.
Yeah, well, Fallout 3 is pretty old now, so it's better. It better.
Yeah,
look
but
better.
Even still, I still played that game for lots and lots of hours. It's fun. It's just been a very, very good year. I can't. There's been some disappointments, but for the most part, this year has been the best I can remember.
Trevor Redfern in chat says this year was meh.
Trevor Redfern in chat is a fucking idiot.
I think that too. I think Trevor Redfern has bad opinions about video games, and
no, he's kidding. This is all an epic bit. You understand?
I hope so.
Epic bit. Speaking of epic memes, do we want to talk about this terrible event, this murder?
What the breaking news of today?
The breaking news of today.
It's not video game related, or at least we don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe he played finally video game.
Do you see that he posted about it to 4chan?
I heard something about that.
Yeah, he did. He said, people in the Northwest, don't. Some of you are okay on here. Don't go out. It's sick. There's a whole thread, and it's sick.
Oh, great! Way to bring the podcast down.
No,
We're
that's
having
the
so
thing.
much fun talking about good video games.
I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just getting old, but
Oh, no.
I'm reading this thread, and I'm just thinking, these are horrible people, and they are immature and terrible and need to grow up and get some perspective.
Damn.
And get a job.
Damn.
God,
You're too young. You're too young to have thoughts like that.
It was terrible. I mean, there are people cracking jokes about
Well, isn't it
15 people dead.
Isn't it the Robot 9000?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's all a big joke. It's all haha.
It's like
funny.
literally a bunch of like psychopaths
Here's
and stuff.
this Le Pepe picture. Don't you like cute memes? By the way, 15 people are dead. It's just. I don't know. So I guess we're going to politics now. Let's do it.
Sure. This podcast is about whatever we want it to be about.
Yeah. So every time one of these happen, I just wonder like, and I don't really have a strong opinion about gun control actually either way.
Yeah, me either.
It's inevitable that there's no way that mass killings at this rate can sustain itself for 10 years. Something will change drastically.
Probably. I don't know. I the amount of people I've seen talking about this shooting is a lot lower than when we had kind of the spree of shootings earlier in the year. I've actually seen less.
I've seen more.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I've changed kind of the stuff that I'm looking at or something. But like, it seems to me like we go through this constant cycle of it's a problem right now, and it's a huge problem, and then people stop. Like any other political thing, like it goes through waves of like people caring basically. And the thing about mass shootings is everyone says, well, it's not going to happen to me, and it's not around me, and people don't think about it very much.
This is the first time that I've actually ever thought, like, this is a serious problem, and now I think this is plausible that this could happen to me. Like, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
There have been 294 mass killings this year.
Yeah, but that's such a misleading. That's a misleading thing, though.
It is too liberal a criterion.
Yeah.
But it's a lot.
I don't know.
And it doesn't happen anywhere else. That's all I'm gonna say.
It does happen other places. I mean, China. God, China's been
China, whatever.
bombed and people have been getting
China's
killed.
China.
I mean, there's a lot of places that are having some really fucked up shit happening. That's the thing.
China
I think a
will
lot of people
slit a baby's throat for a grain of rice.
Yeah, a lot of people tend to be really, what's the word for it? Egocentric, kind of, when it comes to their own country's problems, and saying like, well, it's only happening here, and as far as like mass shootings in public places, yes, it's only happening here, but people killing other people, and sometimes a lot of them, is not at all a United States problem.
You gotta acknowledge that it's different. These aren't militants for a terrorist cause. It's a different issue.
It's a slightly different issue.
I think it's okay. I think it's okay to raise a fuss about something, and that doesn't necessarily discredit other more serious issues. I don't think we have to go there.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying I don't think it's as uniquely American as people are making it out to be. It's the reason that people are using guns to do it is because the United States, because of the history of the United States, has a lot of guns. A lot of people can get their hands on guns really easily, and it's easy to kill people with guns. It's easier than making a bomb, for example. And that is a uniquely American problem because of how America is. But I don't know. It's weird. It's just weird. And I've looked at a lot of statistics about it and stuff, and historical figures, and like have mass shootings really been on the rise, that kind of stuff, and it's really inconclusive, and kind of it's weird how little, I guess, information there is, conclusive information there is about that stuff, about like, are we as a nation just getting crazier and killing more people? Like, is that actually happening?
I think that's possible.
It seems like it.
It
does
feels
seem
that
like
way. I mean,
it's weird.
There's always the Jack Thompsons who will say, video games are causing all these murders, and they're clearly crazy. But when you have somebody literally posting about this mass murder they're about to commit on 4chan, you have to at least consider that the insular online
The internet is a huge
culture is
yeah.
a breeding ground for unhealthy thoughts.
Well, it's like Japan has been dealing with that for a
Yeah,
long
with their
time now.
with their hikikomoris, at
Yeah.
least they're just becoming wastes of skin instead
But
of killing people.
yeah, but it's a legit problem there
It's
now.
a
Like,
very-
it's becoming
it's a very
a
bad problem.
huge issue, and that's not going to be, again, that right now that's a uniquely Japan issue. It's not going to be that way forever. That's going to spread. And
It's a cultural thing. Their culture has the way that their culture was configured. It was perfect for the internet to come and do this. I think our culture produces different consequences.
Yeah.
That we hold guns in a certain regard in our culture, and in a increasingly fuckboy age. I don't know. There's nothing
The world
to
is
say.
fucked. Things
It's-
suck right now.
Yeah, the
And
economy's
always.
in the tubes.
It's all right.
It's not.
Gas
it's
is
actually not.
gas is $2.
I could tell you all about the economy. It's not in the tubes.
No, it's not.
Have you been keeping
Thanks,
up to
Obama.
date? So, did you hear that? I guess we're getting economic here. Did you hear that the Fed is not going to raise
Yep.
interest rates just yet?
Yep. I was surprised actually, but
It's interesting.
that's a really weird.
We are
Trying to figure that stuff out is crazy.
Well, no, that's
How the interest rates.
That's my entire.
work.
That's my entire study is
Yeah.
this stuff. But we're basically like 30 years off from a normal reserve rate. Like it's weird. The drastic measures that the Fed had to take. We're in a weird limbo for many years to come.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. It's untapped territory. This has never been done before. Some of this monetary policy.
Yeah, and it's God. Yeah, you're right. It's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, you're creating economic laws almost because like you said, it's never been done before, and so we don't really know. That's the thing. That's the reason that it's this huge. For weeks before the decision was going to be made, the stock market just kind of froze. And it fluctuated significantly sometimes because people just had no idea what to think. Nobody knew what to do. It just like people just didn't want to buy or sell. And then one day everyone wanted to sell, and then the next day everyone wanted to buy, and it's just we're in a weird spot. I try to educate myself a lot on
Are you one of
economics.
those end the fetters?
End the fetters?
Yeah.
You mean like, well,
Like those
I'm
Ron Paul and the Fed people.
I'm pretty libertarian when it comes to economics, but not in the Fed, no, at all, not at all that. But I do trade on the stock market a little bit, and so I keep up with that stuff, and I try to stay educated about it, and it's complicated. Turns out weird,
It's very
weird
complicated.
how economics is a complicated issue. God, push a shout.
You're
venturing
one-stop
into new
shop
territories.
for politics, economics.
Politics and economics, and what else could we talk about? International affairs.
Yes.
Russia and the United States are about to start a proxy war in Syria.
It
Also
really,
video games.
It feels weird. It feels like stuff is happening now. In
Stuff's
the
always
world.
happening.
I know stuff's always happening, but it feels like we're entering some kind of new.
Not okay, but yeah, but
Chapter.
not to be to bring the age thing into it again, and not to be a cranky old man when I'm only like 2 or 3 years older than
You're
you.
only like 34 or something.
But when I was your age, I remember having that same exact thought.
You know,
looking
it's
at the
probably
news and
totally
saying
normal.
like, I am living in a tumultuous time and everything's changing.
I'm not disagreeing. I remember I was like 17 or something, and I was super into Ayn Rand. I had been introduced.
Oh, boy.
No, I was 15. I wasn't that horrible. I was 15. Was introduced to Ayn Rand by my debate coach in high school, and I thought like that was the way. Like I was a one man. Like all that matters is the individual. And then I remember one of my teachers once. It wasn't a conversation about Ayn Rand or libertarianism or anything, but he wound up mentioning that when he was 17, that's what he thought too, and it's just something that people think. And then I was like, you know what? I believe it now, but that probably is true. And I
Yeah.
know that one day I won't believe it, and I'll remember this moment.
It's weird to look at
Yeah.
yourself that way.
Yeah.
I remember when I was
So I just enjoy it. I just enjoy going through the
When I was, like,
boilerplate.
when I was like 14 or 15,
Moments.
and this is the case for a ton of people online. When I was like 14 or 15, it was all about atheism.
Oh
all
yeah,
about it.
yeah, that was
Everything
my
was-
thing.
It was just like that's all you care about.
The amazing atheist, like
Yeah.
fuck Christianity. Don't you realize how illogical it is? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
And the thing is, like, it's not like I disagree with anything that I thought then. It's just
Yeah.
the fact that I was making it such a major
you
part
wouldn't.
of, like,
Yeah,
my
exactly.
thoughts
You wouldn't
and-
go looking for a Christian chat room to go argue with Christians about God.
yeah, yeah. But man, age, man, life, man.
Wow,
This has
man.
been the Push
Man,
to Shout.
man.
Push to
Bush,
shout.
the Bush to shout.
This has been Push to Shout's new spin-off talking about life issues. Send in your questions and we'll give you advice about your relationships and about your who you're going to vote for. We'll tell you who to vote for
Mitt
You're on-
Romney.
here on Push to Shout. This has been episode 49 in the books. We'll be here next week. We'll be here all week. My name's Skip.
I'm Brutalcum Powder. Goodbye.
It's over. It's over.